Hi everybody, this is Miriam. I'm sorry for the late tech issues. I gotta love that. This is Miriam from my Bigfoot Diaries. And we're gonna have Dana on to join us. She's right here on the computer, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch her over so you guys can see my screen.
Yeah. That'll be awesome.
Dana, hello, how are you?
I'm good, yay! Technology.
Yeah, I gotta love that.
Yeah, so my phone, I don't know, there's features on a phone versus on a computer. That's why I hopped on my computer, because I'm like, I didn't get an invite ever.
Yeah.
So I don't even know.
That's all good. It's all good. At least we got people jumping on. Welcome everybody. Let me just turn.
I was like friending up because it's a lot. Oh my God, in my world, we could get into it. But I was not allowed to comment directly to you.
Yep.
I could thumbs up. That's it. I couldn't comment, but I could comment to another person. I don't remember who it was, another admin or something like that. So I could only do a reply to her comment. And then finally I'm thumbs upping, and then, just trying to get noticed, clapping my hands.
Yeah.
Anyway.
That's good. Oh, well, welcome to the Facebook Live, everybody. This is Dana Louise, and so welcome, Dana. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and go ahead and jump into whatever story that you want to share?
Oh my God. Like, how much time do we have? Okay, I don't know. How do I begin this? I'm a 63-year-old mother of 2 grown sons who's been hiding in what I call the cosmic closet for all of my life. Because when I was an infant in the crib is when the gray aliens started to visit me. And that went on for about a decade. Gosh, like I'm giving you the crypt notes because it's just so much. And then when I was about 10 or 8, I was taken to an airport where I was given a red rose by Pat Nixon. It's just a lot of me, aliens, shadow government, all this kind of stuff. The angelic realm. I mean, you name it. They've showed up at my house. Ghosts. And when I see ghosts, they're solid like a human being. Got punched by my neighbor's dad one night. Who's dead. Anyway, holograms. I'm weird. I don't know. Now I feel like I'm just trying to shove a lot into because we're epically late. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
So just in a nutshell, after my book came out, and I literally didn't want to tell people who and how I am, but I'm like, Dana, I should take my glasses off. Dana, you're at a particular age, and my children have witnessed a lot of things with me. Many people have, which is very confirming for me to have so many witnesses to the weird things in my life. But anyway, but it got to the point where, I was in denial all these years. I just wanted to be a normal, average housewife, human. And then it was like my sons aren't going to remember all my stories because they're not their stories. So I've always been told that I'm supposed to write a book. So I'm like, okay, you got to write the book. So in 2019, before COVID, I stopped all of the businesses that I was doing, shut everything down, and started to try to write. First and foremost for my descendants, say that 3 times really fast. First and foremost for my descendants, and then the voice kept saying, but this is for the whole world. You need to share this for the whole world because I am weird. Anyway, so I did that, and I came out with my book in 23 in April, and then I did a talk with MUFON like in November or October of that year, and then in February of 24, I got a phone call from a man, and then he, I'm sure he's an agent, a retired agent, and I'm not sure from what secret government program he was with, but he had a file on my father that dated classified file, military papers and stuff like that, that goes from 1960 before I was born, until 2008. Very strange papers in there from all of those years of my dad. And he just said he found it in the back of the desk, which I knew was baloney. That was a lie. But I let him lie to me because I was, I didn't want to bust him, because then I thought he might get weird. Something might happen to me, because that is my life. I mean, the shadow government has followed me my whole life. And I didn't want to be neuralized or off-worlded or anything like that. So I just played along with him. And I'm very grateful that this man had the strength to come forward to me and for me, because for myself, it's confirmation of everything that I knew. And also for me, it's like, boo-boo, to like people who doubted me.
Yeah.
Like my sister or brother, I'm like, this shit's real, you guys. And even my husband was kind of taken aback, because I've been married to him for coming up 34 years and very quickly. And I never talked to him about these things like dating, like how do you explain this stuff, like, oh yeah, I see angels, I work with God. You don't do that. I don't do that. Anyway, I was just trying to be normal, a muggle.
Yeah.
But anyway, even he was set back, like, to see in 3D real life the receipts, old school pictures and stuff like that, and classified papers. He couldn't say, that I'm a loony, because here's the proof.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful for that. But also for other people, this file means that there's people in the shadow government behind the scenes that want the truth to come out. And so they're bringing these things to people such as myself, so that I can bring my voice forward about the cryptids, about like I had an encounter with Bigfoot. I was in the Girl Scouts.
Oh,
I can't say that I saw Bigfoot, but we know that it was him, that it was messing with me. This was on a camping trip when I was a little girl. I'm just gonna kind of skip forward about that. But just to say that all of these things are very true and very real, in that the problem with going on with this planet is we've all been shut down. We're born kind of not knowing who and how we are, but then the whole system is about forgetting and not knowing really who we are as human beings, our divinity. And I know you work with horses, and trying to bring forward to other people, and I know you get this in having intuitive conversations or telepathy with animals. So I think a lot of humans have telepathy with other animals, but I think that this is a skill we need to have going forward as humans. And what I'm trying to say is, very quickly, is that a lot of our divinity has been shut down. Like, we're born into not knowing how we are, and then this system keeps trying to shut us down. And so part of my voice and what I'm trying to say or bring back is part of our humanity, and how I term it is to be a whole, holy human. So that's kind of my goal. And also in that, it was incredibly hard for me, and I feel very fragile coming out with my story, because it's a lot, and I know that. And that's why the more that went on, the more I just was like, I gotta hide. It's almost like a shame thing. And I don't mean to equate it, but it's, it's like if you've ever, anybody suffered from abuse, it's that kind of thing. I felt shame in it, and I've tried, because how do you explain it? Because the minute you say, the shame is that when you open up your mouth and you say, oh, I saw a UFO, all your credibility goes away, and I just wanted to be normal. And I knew that this whole planet was gaslit since I was a baby. I mean, I just kind of walked around going, no, like, you guys, wake up. Like, this is what's really going on around here. I was kind of, I don't know if I was born that way, or if when the Grace visited me, well, no, they just visited me. I was born this way. And I know. But anyway, and even I've had a microchip come out of the back of my neck. I mean,
wow.
you name it, I know. And that's how, when I wrote the book, legitimately, because I'm like, I came very much more from more of a corporate realm of writing. So when I decided to do this, I sat in front of my computer, no lie, for like 9 months, looking at a blank screen, trying to write the first paragraph, the first page. And basically I'm like, my name is Dana. I was born in Minnesota. You know, it's just kind of like all this kind of stuff. And then I just kind of did it, and I just started to write it, and I went through, and I started to get my flow, and I started to find my voice, because I'm very much into energy work, if you could go figure. So I wanted, you know, I know that the power behind words and spelling and all this kind of stuff, you know, I'm very well aware of that. So I was like, okay, I'm really going to bring my energy and my magic that's inside of me forward into this book. And I have been successful in that. But the way I wanted the book to present itself to the reader is that I'm your friend. I am the mom, the grandma down at the end of the block, just trying to have a conversation with you. And all I'm trying to do is tell you the experiences I have. And that's the only place I can come from, is just to say, here are my experiences. And so I started to write the book, and I said to my younger son, I'm like, oh my God, like, how, I can't sit there and open up the book with like, I was born, blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, then Tarantino it. And for a minute I had a brain fart, and I'm like, Tarantino it? He goes, yeah, you know, the Tarantino movies, you know, because he takes like the middle of the movie action and opens the movie with it. You know what I mean? He kind of mixes everything around. So I'm like, well, I have to come up with, pick a chapter that would engage people and bring them in a little bit. So I did start off the book where when the microchip came out of the back of my neck, it was my neighbor who still lives down at the end of the block, and she kindly wrote like a little blurb for the back of my book, because I said, would you be brave enough to write a little something that I can put on the outside of my book, you know, like a witness or whatever you call them, whatever stuff. And she was happy to do it. She's an English teacher. She's a very normal person, but she saw the microchip come out of my neck. And just trying to say things quickly, I always said to God, like, why all of these witnesses all of my life? Why? And the answer was always, because Dana, well, number one, and I don't know about anybody else who's had other experiences, but especially with aliens, you forget it. And I don't know if that's a protection form from our brains or if it's a programming, but it's kind of like a balloon string. And over time, it's like it kind of goes away and you kind of forget it. And so the message to me was, Dana, if you didn't have all these witnesses, you would forget it, or you might forget it, and you wouldn't believe it. So these people are here to bounce back on you that, yeah, that happened. I was here. I witnessed it. I was there for you. I'm still here with you. And this has gone on for my entire life, all of these things. So anyway, there's my nutshell. There's my introduction.
That's awesome. So you want to jump into any type of story that really jumps out to you, that an experience that you've had?
Well, I guess, okay, let's go back to, all right, so the gray aliens would come when I was in my crib, and the first night, okay, and I always have to preface this, to the best of my understanding, and this is what I want to say, and this is also why I wanted to write my story, because I'm like, I've been hiding, and I know other people have been quiet on their stories too. But if we all put our voices together, they can't stop us. They can't shut us up. That's what they want to do. But if we keep coming forward, and I feel like I've waited too long, because now I'm swimming amongst a bunch of other stories, which is great. But you know, I should have probably spoke a while ago. But anyway, but I want to be here to support other people, to be like, hey, look at her. She's a weirdo. She's coming forward. I can do it too. So when the Grays started to visit me in the beginning, as I was saying a minute ago, I prefaced this is my first recollection of it because they could have visited me before and I don't recall it. But my first memory of it, I was about maybe 9 months old. I'll say 9 months old. Because my body felt a little bit bigger than a 6-month-old. However, I'm going to say I was a precocious child, and I don't know if this is what happens to other people who've had a lot of alien interventions or whatever, confrontations or whatever you want to call them. So I grew up very quickly. My body was big, unusually big. By 3rd grade, I was pretty much full grown. And you look at me as my first birthday, and I'm like hanging out of the what do you call it? The thing, the tree, the baby chair, high chair. There's the word. Anyway, so let's go back. My first recollection was, and this is, in the early 60s, I'm laying in my crib and it's nighttime, middle of the night, and I hear the shades go flying up. Now, back in the day, in our house, it was the old Rambler, like a 50s Rambler, early 60s, and it had a pull-down shade that was like fabric. This is before blinds like we know them today. So it was this, kind of a piece of fabric, and it was on like a magnetic clutch. So you could pull it down and like would stick, or pull it up, and if you pulled it, let it go too quickly, it would roll and then flip around and make a lot of noise. So anyway, so the shade went up, and so it woke me up and startled me, and I turned my head to look at it, and this is all happening all at once, and there's this gray shaped balloon in the window. Okay, and there is a nightlight in the street of this, of our neighborhood and stuff like that. So it kind of illuminated, the face. Mm-hmm. But to me as a baby, I'm like, oh my God, like it's a gray balloon. But then I'm like, oh my God, there's features on it, and it's staring at me, these big eyes and this mouth and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm staring at it, and then I'm kind of looking around, because in my room was like this unusual bright white light. Like I have never seen a white light that's as white as this white light was. Anyway, it was lit. And it was like going around the room, like searching. And in our neighborhood, the cars, would drive by at night or something. But that would be, like a and the headlights would be at a certain angle and they'd be consistent and smooth. This was not. It was jointed and going around, but there was a humming and a vibration. And I'll tell you, and I don't know any other experiencers if this is true for them, because I've stayed away from listening to other people's stories up until I wrote my book, because I wanted to keep my story to myself kind of clear and not be convoluted with other people's imprints of their stories. So I'm not quite sure about everybody's story. And, I have some exposure, but, I tried to stay away from that. But anyway, so there was a humming and a vibration, which was recently confirmed to me. I ran into a little girl, a woman, grown-up woman, who was a little girl in the house behind. And she said she remembered the humming and the vibrations. So there's the humming and the vibrations. What I'm trying to say is, like, whenever I've met any alien, the room is always filled or changed or charged. I don't know how you want to say it. But there's always like this, it's in a weird thing. Like the air is sparkling. It's a weird vibration. So for me, I feel that the aliens I have encountered, and I recall 3 different species. I know 3 different species, and 2 of them took my DNA, my husband's DNA. It's a whole other story. But anyway, that they need to have this certain type of atmosphere. And I will say to you, I had watched recently, like 3 weeks ago, like I don't know if it was Ancient Aliens or something like that, like one of these shows that are on TV. Anyway, but they were talking about the Hindu people, and it was probably a statue or something that Angkor Wat or something, I'm not sure. But they talked about, like a long, long time ago of like the sky people or something. This is me paraphrasing it. Mm-hmm. And they were saying that around them, and I'm going to call that atmosphere, there was fire and what did they call it? Fire and was it not light? It was something. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm forgetting the other word. But what I'm trying to say is, I think that they were trying to describe that these sky people who became gods and sat on thrones to these cultures had to have the same atmospheric presence with them as well. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of like this vibration. So for me, it's kind of like, fish need water. I would assume that a lot of these creatures come from a different atmosphere. We live in a certain atmosphere that our bodies are used to. If you come from a different planet, duh, I would think it's a different atmosphere. So I think they have to recreate it or create it in order to move around. That's just based on my experience. I could be completely wrong, but every time I've seen these guys or any of them, that's what's going on in the room. And typically when I was a baby, okay, so here was this bubble head in the window, and and I'm looking around going, what the heck? And there was a part of me that was kind of like, this shape went flying up. Aren't mom and dad coming? Or my sister or brother, like, isn't my brother or sister playing a prank? Are my mom and dad going to come and run in? Blah, 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 blah. I know I'm only 9 months old, but I'm a very different child. And so these thoughts were going through my head, like, isn't somebody going to rescue me or something? Like, this is weird. I know whatever I'm seeing is not a normal thing. It's not normal. I was smart enough to know that. And then the next thing you know, over my crib were more gray-headed creatures, and then I blank out. Wow. And that was the memory of my first encounter, and then it started to become repetitive, to the point of where I'd say, I remember laying there going, oh no, you again. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I just want to say, take a minute for anybody who's listening, that it is traumatic. Just imagine tonight, if you went to bed and you woke up, if your shades or there was some noise that startled you and there was somebody in your window. Yeah. That's frightening.
Especially for a 6-month-old child. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But then imagine if then that person's there, but then then their bodies are in your room and you're defenseless because you're a baby, you're defenseless. But just imagine being just a grown-up and encountering this, because I have a heart attack as a grown-up now. I don't know why. I took it a lot better when I was little, but it's frightening, Sure. And it just became a normal occurrence. Mm-hmm. And when I got this file, it just made me understand that I knew as a child that I was traded for alien technology. I knew it. Mm-hmm. So this file was complete confirmation, because in the file, it said that my dad had been working with NASA. We as a family did not know that. We thought he was an electrical engineer, Honeywell, UNIVAC, and all that kind of stuff back in the day. Nobody knew about his interactions with NASA and stuff like that, and where he had been, like Wright-Patterson's, where they were reverse engineering the some of the Roswell crash. And my dad's funeral, my dad died in 2010, just to let you know. Yeah. So this file went to 2008. And when he died, there was a man at the funeral who said, I don't know why they fired you, Dad. My dad said he quit. And this is when I was probably about the time when I got the rose. We'll get back into that if we have time. I don't know how much time we have. Anyway, so he said that, your dad changed the supercomputer. So I don't know why they fired him. And so I'm telling you this. I'll show you this. Mm-hmm. In the file, I didn't know what this was. Here's the picture of the supercomputer. Wow. Because I went to a MUFON thing where a bunch of old farts are, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, what is this? They're like, well, that's the supercomputer. Okay, and also then I have to back up the guy who gave me the file, who said he found the file in the back of the desk, said he wished he knew my dad and had worked with my dad. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I thought you just found this file. Whatever. Anyway, and I said, well, were you in electrical engineering? He said, no, I was in IT. And I'm like, well then, because I'm sorry, IT people, I think, are very specific. Mm-hmm. So I was like, how do you have all your times and dates, like such a messy story, and you're in IT? Okay, whatever. Anyway, so going back, I'm sorry if I'm kind of skipping timelines, but going back, I'm this little girl, the aliens are coming, I'm saying, oh, here you are again. But after I'd had a visitation, each time I would be changed, transformed. I would have kind of like what I would term like magical powers. Like I could move things and do things and mess with things like electronics, things like that. I could do these things. And it would last for about 2 or 3 days, and then it would fade off. And my sister, she noticed that I was able to have these abilities. And so sometimes I didn't remember that the aliens had visited me, and these were grays. But then other times I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, I'm transformed. They must have visited me last night. And then when I was able to walk around, I remember giving them tours of the house, like I was a realtor or something like that. Like, and here's the kitchen, and here's la 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 la, But let me tell you, we're not talking. I've never spoken out loud to an alien. We use telepathy. Going back to what I was talking about with telepathy before. So it really is like just me thinking. When you think in your head, I could think in my head and they would understand me and I could hear their thoughts, and that's how we spoke. Also, when I got to be about 4 or 5 years old, I saw a different type. Oh, okay, so that's 4 different, two breeds of grays. So I had the nighttime grays, and then when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was at a neighbor's yard, and there's a lake back there, and I was down there with a bunch of other kids down by the water, and I'm looking at the water, and then all of a sudden I'm whooped like up the hill where there was woods up there, and there was a different troop of grays, and they were taller. I couldn't really see them because, again, there was that atmospheric thing, so it was kind of like you could kind of see them, you couldn't really see them, the best of my memory. Okay, so I'm up there with them, and they're doing whatever, and then the next thing, I'm back down by the water. And when I got back down to the water, it was like a boop. I looked up the hill, and I wanted to see them if I could physically see them. They weren't there, and I knew they weren't there, but it kept being like, come out, show yourself to my friends. And it reminds me of the little boy Barry in like Close Encounters. Yeah. It was just kind of like that thing. That's how little I was when this happened. And so then I'm back down by the water, and then all of a sudden I'm realizing that my buttocks hurts above my cheeks and in my backside. And so then I ran home because it was very painful. So I think they put a tape on me there. I had an indentation. It wasn't bleeding, but I've had like this scoop out of my buttocks area. The like I said, the microchip that came out of my neck, and I don't know, maybe what they inserted into my rear end worked its way up my spine. I don't know. I can't tell you. I have no idea. But anyway, so that was very painful, and I ran home and I went and looked in a mirror, and and then I saw the scoop and everything like that. Okay, so here I am, I'm 4 or 5. And then when I was writing the book, I realized, because the voice said to me, I have this interaction with this voice. I call it God, and, or angels, I don't know, higher power, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, it said, Dana, you forgot. Whose yard was that in? I'm like, I don't know. Whose yard was that in? It was my dad's boss's yard. My dad, kind of oddly, lived only like a block away from, their house was only a block away from our house, which is weird. Anyway, so yeah, these gray aliens during the day, I got tagged down by the lake. Okay, so now let's go to, I'm 8 years old, and I'm going to show you this. And I'm going to explain that. It's my dad's handwriting. This is Dana. And then I put a little Post-it note over this to put Louise and a heart on there, because I don't expose my my last name as my maiden name, and I don't expose my married name out of protection, out of an abundance of protection. But so this says a presidential visit. I'm the special guest. There's a number on there. It says Rochester Airport, and then it has the date of October. What was it? October. Is it October 28th? It's right before Halloween.
Wow.
October 28th, 1970, or October 29th, 1970. You can see the date.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, so what happened was my parents took me out of school, elementary school, during the day and drove me down to the Rochester Airport. We lived in Fridley, and there's the airport, Minneapolis Airport. Nope, down to Rochester, and we pick up the name tag. Special guest. I'm a little girl, and there's the newspapers are there and the radio stations are there, and we're standing on the tarmac. We went outside, stood on the tarmac, and up rolls Air Force One. And then out pops Pat Nixon and Richard, and Pat comes up to me and hands me a long stem red rose. Just me, one rose. And she walks away, and immediately after that, the newspaper and the radio stations come up and interview me. So that is, a fact that could be looked up. I've tried to find those interviews, but I can't, unfortunately. I mean, I'm sure they're somewhere. But so when I was writing the book, again, the voice said to me, Dana, you need to look up the presidential diary, when I was writing about this in this moment. And I'm like, what? Like, what's the presidential diary? And so I just Googled it, and, there it is. The presidents have a diary. Somebody keeps a diary for them. And there was the flight manifest of the day of, the different flights that they took. And I think I can whip it out right here. I printed it up, the flight manifest, and anybody can go into Richard Nixon's diary, the flight manifest, and this is the official flight manifest. This is who's on the plane.
Wow.
Okay?
Oh,
this
yeah.
is who's on the plane. Guess who's not listed on any of the flights?
Who?
Pat Nixon.
Okay.
So,
wow.
So if the plane went down, they wouldn't be looking for her body. She's not listed on the flight. Anybody can go and look it up. But I was like blown away when I was writing the book, because I'm like, okay, now you're bringing in the red rose, but that Pat's not even listed on the flight manifest. Yeah. Wow, I'm like, that's... can you get more shadow government?
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. That's definitely it.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say to everybody is, throughout my life and my experiences, I've been guided by a higher power, but I've also had a lot of, like I said, witnesses, as I was saying before, and I also think that they call me because, seriously, if you had all these things, you kind of question your sanity or something like that. But when you're sitting next to somebody and they're like, did you see that? Whatever, in the moment, a lot of it is just very normal. And then something very weird happens and everything like that. So, for whatever reason, this path has been put in my way, which is also why I decided, Dana, it would be probably a karmic debt for you to pass away without sharing what's happened to you, because I'm not so sure. I don't understand why. I don't fully understand all the things that have happened to me, or that I've seen, or the places I've gone to, because I've almost got swallowed by a vortex. I've gone through wormholes. I've been to heaven. You wouldn't believe this stuff. I transformed an entire conference room with 100 people in it, like a holodeck at Star Trek. And I'm not even joking about that. So all those people were witnesses. That's 100 people seeing the weird stuff I do that I don't even know that I can do.
Yeah.
So that's why I have shame, because I'm like, anyway. So I I just thought that this has been put on my plate, and for me not to share it, I don't understand it, but for me not to share it, that would be bad. Mm-hmm. Because I know my grandma was gifted, my dad's mom, and she didn't leave any notes or anything like that, because then I started to question, did she ever see any aliens or anything? You know, because people are like, is this an ancestral thing, or is this a you thing, or is it the shadow government thing? And I think it's a lot of these things all coming together, many rivers coming together to that made up who and how I am, because I didn't even know, I never thought it was like my mother's family at all, like that they were weird. But then you know, I got in touch with some of my some people on my mother's side, and they said that you know, we're related to some of these Scottish people. And then now all of a sudden on Facebook about a month ago, it popped up like, oh, UFOs in Scotland. And they're like, oh, here's Bonnie Bridge or something like that. And they're like, oh, well, I was told that our family comes from the Lee Castle. You know, we fought with Braveheart and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh, and then this is the center of all the UFO interactions. So I'm like, okay, go figure. But then I was on a reality show in Norway. I know, I manifest weird stuff because I'm weird. But anyway, so my mom's family in Norway literally comes from this place called Andoya, or whatever. I don't say it very well. It means Duck Island in Norwegian. But anyway, and that's where the Air Force Base is. And it's always told that all these strange occurrences happen at the Air Force Base there, like weird lights and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's where my ancestors come from. Wow. You know, right there. So like, and the Scottish people, you know, the Norwegians and the Scots are kind of like, you know, that's the chicken and the egg and stuff like that. So, and I'm like, so both sides, you know, my Scottish ancestors moved to Norway. So they came from a UFO hotspot, went to Norway, and I'm like, did they then bring the aliens with them and create another alien hotspot? I had no idea. But, you know, and everybody's like, Dana, there's going to be a second book. You got to write a second book. And I feel like maybe because since I wrote my first book, all these things are coming out and very interesting. And if not, once again, if not just for my descendants and for my children to know, it's also for me. I'm getting more and more curious. And then other people are like, they want to know. They want to, you know, what? Tell us more about your dad. I'm like, I got to look up his military background. And I just want to say thank you to anybody who's a vet on this beautiful weekend. We honor you. So thank you to
Thank you for your service. Yes.
Yeah, thank you all to your service. I mean, and it's a good time that we live in, because also I just kind of a sidebar. I want to say, you know, somebody might have done a service for a number of years, went and served, you know, with the paperwork. But the big part of their service is when you come home, if you had some trauma, trying to deal with that. And I deeply understand that deep kind of trauma of having your life being threatened over and over without you knowing. I super hear your heart. So that touches me very much. So shout out to those people. I honor you greatly. I don't know how much time we usually have, because I could get into the super space program if you want to get into that. But I mean, I could go on for hours and hours and talk about so many subjects. It's not even funny.
That's okay. Share anything you want. I'm actually I'm off today, so I don't have to work. And anybody who wants to listen, then we can listen as long as you want to. So we can go as long as we can.
It's 7. I had made plans because of this weekend, and so so I don't have too much more time, and I'm so sorry about that. But and I apologize for being, you know, the whole kerfuffle getting here. Okay, so back to me being 8 years old, and I'm getting this rose. All right, so I'm getting the rose, and to me, I feel that's when the Greys stopped visiting me at night. And I feel now as an adult looking back, because I think you could be more combative. You know, you're growing up, and like I said, I was precocious and large. So I think these grays, they seem kind of flimsy. You know, like I don't think they could put up for a fight. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're pretty weak looking. They can neuralize you. They can knock you out. But in a fight, you know, they got flappy arms. they're pretty much worthless. So, you know, they're skinny little guys. So I think that's when they stopped, at least with this program, stopped messing with me. So I got the red rose. Then I think this is when they threatened my dad because I think I was slated to go to Montauk. All right. You know, like, we're going to send your daughter on a little camping adventure. Let's send her out to Montauk. I'm sure most of you people, you know, your audience knows what I'm speaking about. I don't have to explain that. And I think my dad said, hell no, she won't go. So I think that's when he quit and they said, well, you're fired, whatever. But it basically at that point pretty much ruined my dad's career. And it took many years for him to get back to being an electrical engineer. I mean, it literally ruined his career. It was hard for us as a family. Yeah. Now I understand it. But all these years, I didn't understand it. And so, okay, so my dad said I quit, and there, you know, and I'm drummed out of the whatever program I was in. I'm not being sent to Montauk, but there was a number of things that now I realize, and after writing the book, and last year I was at a conference with other people such as myself who were talking about their experiences, which triggered me back to thinking of that time. More of these memories were coming forward, you know, like I talked about that balloon string, you know, and us, you know, forgetting things. It's like, oh my God, you know, there were incidences that went on. You know, they were trying to give me medication as a little girl for no reason. The pediatrician, but my mom was such a narcissist, she forgot to give it to me, so it didn't work, guys. So I mean, I can see there was a whole setup, you know, of them trying to trap me.
Can I ask you one thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the MK Ultra program?
Yes, I have.
Do you believe that maybe they were trying to groom you into this type of program, or they were trying to do anything like that?
Well, you know, and I'm not sure where the MK Ultra would have taken a child such as that, but I think that's where the Montauk thing, because they wanted children that had telepathic abilities, right?
Yep, or special,
so they would have brought
anything special that they have that they were targeting.
Yes, and I had abilities. Yep. You know, I had those psychic abilities, all of them, and anyway, and a lot. And so, you know, I think I was targeted. So what happened then is that contract was ended. I got the red rose. The next thing you know, and I'm going to tell you, because I love technology, Big Bang Theory. I mean, I kind of like, you know, that kind of helps me de-stress watching it. I don't know, I just get all those people. But Amy, who's Sheldon's girlfriend, it startled me. It kind of triggered me for a hot minute because she wears this specific sleeping gown. And to me now, how I am and everything, I'm kind of like, oh, was that on purpose, this sleeping gown? Because that's the same, and I'm sure a lot of you guys, most of you don't know about this sleeping gown. You just think that Amy's wearing this weird sleeping gown. Where the heck did she get it from? But this is a sleeping gown that used to be around in the 70s. I had about 5 of those sleeping gowns of various prints. They were the most hellacious prairie print, I don't even know, but they all had this yoke with this lace. It was like a little house on the prairie kind of a thing. Yeah. Anyway, so when I saw Amy wearing this nightgown, I was kind of triggered. And so I realized that, and I wrote about this in the book, that at that time, after the rose, I would find myself outside on the front lawn in the middle of the night, and the sky would open up. And now a lot of people will call it the firmament, which if you're into Marvel movies or anything like the Avengers or something like that, when aliens are coming and then there's like this barrier wall, that's the firmament, people. And you might think the Marvel universe is fake. Yeah, it's more real than
It's
you'd
pretty.
like to know.
I think a lot of Hollywood movies is based on reality of what really happened. Things like the TV shows like Stranger Things and stuff like that. What they did with 11, what was going on around the kids in that in that show, based on reality, pretty much. And we're not being told what that's reality. We're just being groomed into this. That's what it feels like. It's a grooming that Hollywood is doing.
Oh yeah, and well, they're disclosing it, and that's really pretty much my life is like Stranger Things. Not even joking.
Were you the real life 11?
Oh, I'm worse than her. So anyway, so I'm standing out there, and the sky opens up, and well, first of all, it's rumbling, and I can feel the ground shaking underneath me. It's like this rumbling, and the sky rips open, and in come these ships. Okay, so the ships are coming in, and it's not really a fight. It's like, but they're met with our ships. I'm like, oh, these are our ships. But I'm gonna tell you, I knew they were basically shadow government ships because they weren't normal, but I knew they were ours technically.
Yeah.
And that these other ships were coming in from off-world. So here, the sky rips open, and there's this sound when the sky rips open, and one of my son's girlfriends calls it Legion. She said, "Oh, it comes." I don't know if she said Halo, but one of these shows or something like that. Anyway, she calls it Legion. I'm gonna try to make the sound, and I'm sorry if it's a little bit loud, but it's like it's this kind of a sound.
Mm-hmm.
And hang on a second, I do have some water here.
Oh jeez.
Killing myself. Anyway, but then and I'm gonna just stop here in the action for 1 minute. I was also shown later on Dana, that sound that I didn't have the name, took how many decades later to hear some people call it Legion, but they're like that sound is also the sound of the didgeridoo. It's also the sound of Tibetan throat singing. Yep. Those people weren't praying or going into a meditation, which that vibration will do. They said to me that they're making these sounds because these people are trying to open up the sky, what you just witnessed. They're trying to open up the vortex to the other side. They're trying to open up the firmament. They're trying to say, come back, sky people. And I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. Like, why are these people making this sound? And everybody, all these indigenous cultures around the world were trying to make basically the same sound. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. So anyway, so here I am, a little girl, because I could feel the dewy grass underneath me and all this kind of stuff, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm witnessing this confluence up there. And okay, so that kind of happened a few times. But I think what that was an enticement. Because the contracts were done with Grace and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to Montauk. Well, what else do we have for her of her talents? So the next thing you know, I'm on the ships. Okay, so now, woohoo, now you're part of the super space program, hon. And I'm like, and I didn't even know that that's what it was called until literally I went to that conference. And they're like, that's the super space program. I'm like, oh, snap. Okay, fine, whatever, sign me up. But I'm like, well, then I must be a Marine because I think our Marines land, sea, and air. So my duty wasn't just in the ships. And I don't have any recollection or memory, nor would I want to, of being off-worlded. Well, I might have been, whatever. That's a whole nother story. Most of my working on these ships and being on it, I'm not working, I'm witnessing. I'm witnessing what they are doing on these ships. A lot of it was in over the planet, but I was also on the waterways, and I was also on small airfields. Not big airfields, but small airfields. And normally what I'm doing is I'm hiding and I'm seeing who's coming and going, who the dignitaries are, what the emblems are on the ships and spacecraft and stuff like that. So I'm a witness. I call myself like the eyes on the ground. And I don't know whose information I'm helping or this or that. Some people might call it the Galactic Council. I feel like I'm an agent for God. I'm like one of the Blues Brothers. But so that's what started to happen. And that went on for most of my life up until kind of recently, because I think I mentioned not too long ago that there were these other two alien species that did take my eggs and my husband's sperm, and one night, and which was very upsetting to me. I was probably in my mid 40s, you know, if you can imagine, because they can make a whole human out of that.
Yeah.
And you know, that I can't even really think about it. I love my children so much, and I just can't imagine that what they're doing. Anyway, so where was I going with that one? So yeah, I start to talk about that. I get offline because I get upset thinking about that.
Yeah.
So, I know. I was gonna say, then I had to shut it all down. I'm like, these efforts, like, no more. Like, this is enough. I mean, I've had it up to here. I don't like being interrupted. I don't like to be stolen from, especially me. You're stealing me now. It's a huge violation. So screw you guys and the ship you came in on. So I started to really get into some energy work and stuff like that to just shut them all down. R2, shut them all down. So, and I've been safe, secure, and protected in that manner since that time. There was a little bit of super space program stuff that went on, and I think there's probably an agreement on my end that I don't understand of really actually trying to help the planet. Oh yeah, when they took my eggs and stuff like that, I had a conversation with them, like, why are you here? And they said, oh, we're here to help your planet. Well, which was interesting, because then that said to me, they were off world. They're not from, because it's like, we're here to help your planet. And I was like, screw you people, you know, all that kind of stuff. French words. And then they knocked me out. But anyway, yeah, so I got a lot of stories.
Oh, man.
I got a lot of stories, yeah. So
I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. It was pretty interesting, a lot of them. Do you think people are more like open to this type of stuff going? Well, back in the old days, you were told like you were crazy and stuff like that, and like nowadays with the government coming on and actually being more open about this, the news is actually talking about this. Tucker Carlson actually had it on a few times. Do you think people are more open to and willing to talk about this type of stuff, so you don't feel as crazy as we were like back in that day?
I have to, excuse me, because I am an energy worker, and on other podcasts, not so much. I'm getting better at it, but when I first started doing a lot of podcasts, it's releasing some energies. Energy workers do. You can yawn, you can sneeze. I kind of verbal when I'm talking about these things. Yeah, I completely believe, you know, thanks to Netflix and thanks to the internet and thanks to all these things, I'm, you know, I know who I am, and I know I'm not crazy, and I'm very solid in my story, and I've known that. I've always been able to stand very firmly on who and how I am. It's just that, you know, I'm sorry, it's like being gay or something like that. Like I said before, coming out of the cosmic closet. How do you do this? So, like, most of us are coming out now, and you know, and it's okay, you know. So I'm stepping forward, and I feel a lot better, and I feel very confirmed when I watch some of these TV shows. You know, it settles me. You know, like, yeah, rock on, you know, and then it helps me in that other people will come forward, like I said earlier. And I want other people to come forward with their stories, because I want the idiot to be the person, like my brother, who when I was little, and I said, do you believe in life on other planets? He's like, oh my God, no, like I'm the biggest dipshit for thinking that. And I'm like, and I wanted to say to him, well, you have no idea what goes on in my bedroom at night. You know, I absolutely know that there's other life on this planet. And I don't know where he's at today with that. If he still thinks and believes that there's no life on other planets. Like, how obtuse, like how, I just think that's the most ridiculous thing. But I want to say to everybody, please enjoy running around thinking about we are, like when you watch Star Wars or something and you see these other planets and stuff like that, you're that person. You're that person on that planet. You're that weirdo. We're all weirdos. We're all, we're all in this together. We're all actually a part of the galaxy, and there are species that live here among us, and they're not the best. They are not that good. And then there's other species that are, as you all know, there's a lot of these drones coming in and out and stuff like that. But a lot of them are worried about what's happening, especially with CERN and opening up all these different portals and things like that. Because the dippity-doo guys, they don't know. And actually, there's a lot of evil people that are trying to open up certain negative portals and stuff like that. And so, and I just want to say, because a lot of people get into a place of fear. I don't want people to come from a place of fear. Especially, you can believe in whatever. I mean, most of the people, and I'm sure your audience, are good people who believe in good things, and you are not, worshiping Satan. And people get afraid of that. But I'm kind of like, well, who's bigger? Who's bigger? Your God and your faith and your belief, or them? So please don't walk around in fear. Let's not fear these things. Of course, I can be frightened. It's well worth to be frightened, but I don't want people to have a vibration of fear, because that's what they want, and then they win. They're trying to shut us down, and they're trying to infiltrate our minds. And actually, okay, I'm just going to say this really quickly. When you're watching these TV shows, be mindful of, it's entertainment, and you can do that for your enjoyment, but don't bring it up in your mind or fixate or think about it often, because that's what they use. They use our thought forms, because they can't create. We're the creators. We're a part of creation. They are not. So the only way that they can create is by, using us. As their springboard and stuff like that. So be very mindful, and don't think of these doomsdays. Think about beautiful green Gaia. Think about how the planet, our planet that we live on, to me is living as much as we are. We don't understand that, but we humans are benighted. We're so benighted. But anyway, and just see and realize a green future, and not this dystopian, because that's what they want. Then they win, and the only way they can get that is through using our thought forms. So let's not give it to them.
Yeah, in my faith, I'm a Christian, so what I believe is God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, power, love, and a sound mind. So I rely on Him. I trust in Him. He's in control. That's my belief.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And who's bigger? Who's bigger? God.
Yes, absolutely. Right? Yep.
Absolutely. So but I think a lot of people get into that. It's kind of popular for people to, become afraid or something. Even if they're a Christian and they believe in God and angels on the hierarchy and all these kinds of things, it's easy to do, because, and we're being used through these 5G towers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, man, they're zapping us, with bad energy and stuff like that. So the more you can, I wear a shield, the more you can protect yourself, because just please know the shadow government does try to come after me. I mean, please don't think they don't, which is probably why we weren't able to connect earlier. I've had that issue with other podcasts, or
have you?
It'll be scrambled or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so hilarious. Who guess? Anyway, but I know, because of God and who I work with, that I'm safe, secure, and protected. And I believe in that same hierarchy. So, yeah. And that's what I want your audience to know and understand. Just take a breather and go hug a tree, because we get so disconnected from this planet, and then that's reality is this planet. And we need this planet in order to live, and we need to eat things from this planet, the plants and all these kinds of things. It sustains us.
The herbs,
so please go.
Yep. Herbs.
Yeah, so
herbs.
Please hug it. Yeah, send it love and hug it, and get out there, especially this weekend. And like I said, and honor the vets that are out there, and honor this great planet that we're on, and don't give your thoughts away to this negativity. just hold your faith and hold the beauty in your heart, hold love and joy. They can't touch you. They can't touch you, them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. What I heard to help prevent jet lag, what I was told is walk barefoot like in the grass, because when your feet are like grounded in the grass, it tells your body like this is where you are now, and that it's a way to like give your body more energy, or that way you're not like tired and all of that. It's a way to ground yourself. That's what I was told.
Right, and that's 100% true. Well, just to do that all the time. But also, if you're traveling, the best thing is to go out and get the sunlight.
Absolutely.
Because I believe in this whole blue light thing. So I'm sorry, I'm doing this now, but I do wear blue blockers when I'm on a screen, when I'm on my phone. If I'm watching TV, I wear blue blockers. In the morning, I wake up and try to get that sunlight towards us, because this is, again, a part of them keeping us away from our humanity. Mm-hmm. And we have to stay whole, holy humans. And they're trying to take that away. So just watch it systematically. It's like being in jail or something, where they're taking away all of our power and all of our freedoms little by little. Yeah. These are minor attacks. They're just a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. So that's why, part of my voice and the thing that I want to say is, be mindful of these things, what you eat, how you speak, what you wear, grounding, getting out, breathing the air, looking at the sun, taking it all in, and being in reality. Because the more that they can put us into their system, into the matrix, the more they win. And that's what they've been doing, is siphoning off of us. They need our loosh. They live off of our loosh. We're like a little loosh farm, And I realized that on some of the ships I was on, that's what they were harvesting. When I was a little girl, I said, oh, look, they're harvesting souls. And that's what I called it. I knew they were harvesting souls. Now, actual souls and reincarnating people, I can't tell you. I'm not quite sure. I might need to think on that a little bit harder. But I kind of felt like it was people as they were dreaming, and they were siphoning the energy off of that. Yep. Farming it. Mm-hmm. Like a loosh field. So, yikes.
That is.
Anyway. Yeah. So I'm going to probably let you go if that's okay.
Okay.
Is that all right?
Before
it's about that time.
You go, would you be able to do a quick story about your Bigfoot encounter, since it is a Bigfoot Diaries
sure.
group?
Okay, yay. All right. So I was a Girl Scout, and I was pretty much 5'8" in 3rd grade or whatever, 5th grade. Yeah, I know. So we go, canoeing, way up north in Minnesota and all that kind of stuff. So, so you go to camp, there's base camp, then you could go on canoe trips off of camp, and I would always sign up for that. I mean, the more primitive we could be, the better for me. And so we're on one of these little excursions. We're probably in 5th grade. And I'm telling you what, back then, different world than today, because they literally handed out Swisher Sweet cigars to all of us, because we have a little creature called deer flies. And so when you're portaging, the deer flies could come, they could be kicked up, and then if they got in your canoe, they were just really worried about us little girls like throwing off the canoe, and then if you're way up there and you dent your canoe or break it, you're kind of screwed. So they give us Swisher Sweets, and I'm sure they don't do that today. Anyway, so we're up there having a good time, and we would lay on the beach at night after we had dinner and cleaned up and everything. And back in the day, the satellites, I think, was like 1 or 2, Sputnik, and I don't know what the other one was. So we would watch, one satellite go by, and I don't remember how long it would take, and then, like an hour later, you'd see it come around again, or I don't remember the time frame. But and basically, the counselors would teach us the constellations. We'd lay on the beach and look at the constellations. But then this particular evening, and almost every evening that I go star looking, there's going to be a UFO up there. So anyway, this night there was a UFO, and it was kind of like darting around, and we're watching it and darting around and doing its thing. And that was kind of unnerving for a lot of the girls. But okay, so just envision you and like behind you is the sand. You're laying on the beach. Mm-hmm. And to our left, the lake is in front of us. So to our left, we started to hear this weird growl noise, something voicing, because we're with counselors, and a lot of us, I grew up, with animals and stuff like that. So okay, we're in the middle of nowhere, and there's no cell phones. This is long before, this is the early 70s. Yeah, probably about the early 70s. So we're on our own, and we don't have guns or anything. There's no way for us to protect ourselves. And we're hearing this unusual cry, and it's not a moose, and it's not a this, and it's not a that, because we're all trying to think of what it is, and even the adults or the counselors, blah, 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 blah. So it's kind of off there, okay? And then the next thing, without any sound, and immediately, swiftly, the voice goes from this spot closer to this spot, and we're like, oh, snap, like, there's nothing that can move that fast, that quickly through this thick of woods without making a sound. That's not possible. Because you'd hear some rustling, you'd hear something, because the creature didn't sound small in any fashion, okay? And it's just it's a high pitch and a growl, it's just unusual thing. And it's quick. And then it moved again, and it was just, I get the chills right now, just, seriously, my hair is on my legs. Next to us. And that's when everybody lost their and started to run. And I'm going to tell you, we did have a little fire, mm-hmm. That we had. We hadn't put it out, because typically what would happen if you're laying on the beach, you kind of get up, and the fire the smoke kind of keeps the bugs away and stuff like that. Yeah. And then you put the fire out, the counselors would, as you're going to bed. They make sure everybody gets in their tents, all the little girls, zip, 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 and then, one grown-up counselor or something would, and the counselors were all probably college kids or younger or something like that. There was no, moms, it was Girl Scouts, to put the fire out. Oh, hell no. We all ran. which is hilarious, because literally, what is saving you? A piece of canvas. And if it was a bear, which it was not a bear sound, and a bear couldn't move that fast, nothing on this planet could move as swiftly as that thing did. This is a big lake, and it moved, boop, boop, boop. Anyway, so we're all, and then nobody's talking, and nobody went and brushed their teeth, nobody cleaned up, nobody peed. We already probably peed our pants, anyway, so we're all in our tents, kind of shivering, and I'm just kind of like, well, if I'm going to die, I'm going to die, like, this, whatever. I think that's all what we were thinking. So we go to sleep, all right, if you can. Well, I wake up the next morning, and I was like, what? I wake up, and the tent door is right here, okay? Mm-hmm. The tent door is right here. This particular tent, and it probably came from World War II or World War I, so old. It was a three-way door, so there was a zipper this way, and then two zippers this way that met in the middle, and it was around my neck. And my sleeping bag was outside the tent. Now, I'll tell you a couple of things, because, a lot of people might question the story or something like that. I told you before, I was the big girl, and there was two other girls in my tent who were all at least a foot smaller than me and very much lighter in weight. Like, let's say they probably weighed 73 pounds and I probably weighed 110, right? And there's no way they could. I was the prankster back in Girl Scouts. I like to have fun. So if anybody's going to play a midnight prank, it would be me. I'd be the first person. So these girls were a little bit more serious, and they would never do such a thing. And there's no way they could have dragged me out of the tent. And besides which, the tent kind of had one of those lips. Like a lot of tents, they have a lip so the dirt just doesn't come in. Mm-hmm. So there's just no way they could have dragged me out with my sleeping bag out of the tent. So I was like, what? And I couldn't get myself because my arms were inside my sleeping bag. So I was kind of like, I was looking at my friends like, hey, you guys, because I'm like, I'm stuck. Yeah. So there's no way I could have done it to myself. And I'm going to tell you, because of the stuff that went down with this noise and this animal, number one, nobody would be playing pranks. And number two, people knew the situation was serious enough where, we took precautions to hang our food, and, girls who had their periods, we took care of them. We're trying very careful to be mindful of animals and all this kind of stuff. No one would play that kind of prank because this could have been deadly. And and you're in fifth grade. No one was playing games that night. There's no way. So the counselor's like, what the heck? Because I think I was like one of the first people to wake up. I'm like, you guys, you got to help me. So they did. And then everybody was discussing, because nobody confessed, because it's still like, okay, confess. Did somebody do this to me? That is not happening. And the morning was very solemn. A lot of times people are like running around, blah, 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 or cheerful, or, whatever, or chitter chatter. Very, very solemn. And we all sat there as a group, and everybody was like, what do you think that was? Like, what happened? And I knew who and how I was. I never told those people, but somebody was, probably one of the counselors was kind of like, knew. They were like, well, there was a UFO in the sky, and that thing didn't sound human. It didn't sound like a UFO, and it was right there while we're looking at a UFO. So legitimately, and I got the chills again. The whole camp was like, I think that was a Bigfoot playing a prank on you, Dana. Wow. And I wanted to say to them,
so you felt like something tried to drag you out of the tent?
I think they were having fun with me. I think I probably was out of the tent. I have a feeling that I might have been with them, no memory or something. And then to be hilarious, or to let me know as a calling card, they didn't put me back all the way in the tent. Like, how'd they get the sleeping bag out and all this kind of stuff? They just zipped up the zipper around my neck. I'm sure they thought, a lot of people say a lot of things, different things about Bigfoot, but this troop and group and in this area are a shit ton of Bigfoot sightings in where this is. Yeah. Huge. People go there to see Bigfoot. And so I think he was being funny, or they were being funny. So I don't remember what happened, but I think they were trying to be funny by zipping the zipper. Because to be perfectly perfect around my neck and stuff like that, that's not going to happen. So, I'd like to say it was Bigfoot because of the weird growling. It was like a high pitch. If you've ever heard of like an eagle whistle and just something weird, like if you maybe listen to something, I could say maybe, no, yeah, that's the one. It didn't sound normal. Now, let me tell you, when cable, this is probably 1990s, one of the very first shows on cable that I saw, there was a Bigfoot show. They were doing like researchers doing some Bigfoot, whatever. I don't remember what it was called. But anyway, so there's these guys and they're in the woods and they're like, blah, 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 the whole hour, and they're trying to find Bigfoot. And so then they're wrapping up the thing and they're in the woods and they're on a dirt road or something. And there's the host or whatever. He's being filmed and the woods are behind him. He's like, well, sorry, we didn't see Bigfoot, la, 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 la. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I just about fell out of my chair because maybe it's just me. I'm sure other people could or would see it too. There was a display shot. There was like like how in Predator, and I think this was long before the movie Predator. Yeah. How it's like you can see through it, but like there's this thing. Yeah. So there was this outline, bigger and taller than him, of a Bigfoot right behind him. And I'm like, dude, there's a Bigfoot right behind you. Turn around. And I laughed because I'm like, didn't the editor see this in editing? Didn't the camera guy see this? Or the microphone guy, sound guy see this? Nobody saw this dysplasia right behind this dude. Wow. I thought it was funny. I'm sure, like, how you talk, I talk about grays, and I say to people, because some people depict grays in different fashions and forms. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I trust you with your depiction of what you saw as a gray. I mean, I'm sure they do more for whatever. But let's just say gray is like saying dog. You know, there's a bunch of different dogs. You know, there's a Chihuahua and there's a Great Dane dog. You know, so you know, Bigfoots could probably be different too. Some might be a little bit more serious. Some might have this different agenda. But for whatever reason, even though that thing was screaming that night, which scared us, and I'm sure they probably thought that was hilarious, because to wake up, you know what I mean?
Could have been juvenile
Wouldn't you want to have
Bigfoots.
fun? You know?
Yeah.
So to wake up the next morning with this zipper all around my head, my face, and my arms are locked up in my sleeping bag.
Oh my gosh.
I think it was hilarious. And so I think they were funny, because I mean, I don't know how else I would have gotten into that position. But to hear that strange sound, now if I hadn't heard the sound and we hadn't heard a UFO, I still would have been like, come on, you guys, who did this? Who did this? Come on, who did this? But nobody was playing that day, and nobody was playing that night, and nobody was playing in the morning. So, and everybody's conclusion, and it was just kind of like, which is really weird, it was just kind of like, well, that was probably Bigfoot. I mean, nobody was like excited about it, or there was no like charge to it. It was just kind of more of a matter of fact, like, well, that was, you know, that's what that was, you know, kind of a thing. Yeah. Which, to me, looking back, I think is kind of hilarious, and I appreciate it. But I mean, I just look at what are the pieces of evidence and how do you put it together, and this is my conclusion. And so that's how I concluded. Now, if I went through hypnosis, you know, maybe I would remember. But I'm going to tell you, I've had enough experiences in my life that I don't want to. I've only gone under hypnosis a couple of times to do some past life regression things, which I didn't believe in. See, most things I just don't believe in. I experience them, but a lot of things I don't believe in, which is hilarious. Anyway, so I didn't believe in past life regression until I experienced it. I was like, oh, okay. But that's the only time I've undergone hypnosis. And so, but I don't want to go under hypnosis to recall many of my alien encounters, because I don't want to know. I've had enough trauma in my life. I don't need more, and I don't need to prove anything to anybody and stuff like that, unless there was a particular thing for research purposes that somebody needed some specific information. I might consider it at that point. Otherwise, no bueno, no presses, no thank you, not doing it.
There's no guarantee. It depends on who you go to. There's no guarantee whether they're going to end up planting memories in you too, or who knows. Right.
Well, the man who did my past life regression is very well known. He's written a number of past life regression books. His name is Carl Schlotterbeck. He's older, so I don't know if he's still around or anything, but he wrote, I mean, he's one of these people, you know, back in the 80s, so he was kind of renowned. And he tapes it, he taped it, and his wife is a shaman and stuff like that. I very much trust these people. And that's the only way and reason why I went to this man. And I went there to kind of help me. I was having some pains in my body, and my neighbor, the one who saw the microchip, she goes, well, that could be a past life thing. You know, maybe you should go and do a past life thing, and that pain in your body would go away. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it, because I'm kind of like, let's see. You know, a lot of times I like to poke a stick at it and go, is that real? Is that for real? So I'm like, okay, that's what you believe in. I'll go try it. I'll give it a whirl. And then I ended up walking away going, that was real. That was a real deal. So anyway, that's my Bigfoot story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you so much for your time here. Can you tell everybody where they can find you, your YouTube channel, and how to get your book?
Yeah, so here's my book. Here's my book. That's me. Anyway, I know it doesn't look like me, but it's my back, so you can't see my face. So this is gonna sound weird. Okay. And I'm Dana Louise, and my website is danalouise.com. And my book is at barnesandnoble.com and also Amazon. So you can find them there. But you can find some of my YouTubes and stuff on the website, or you can go to my YouTube, and it's called, this is going to sound weird, but all of my social media links or whatever are on my website. And I'm just going to let you guys know, I think at Barnes and Noble, I might make $1.25 per book, and maybe Amazon closer to $2. So legitimately, this is a pilgrimage. I don't make any money from this. You know, we're not paid to do, you know, podcasts and stuff like that. This is my passion because I don't understand what has happened to me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, you know, so I'm following God in that. You put this on my plate. I think now that I'm older, I should share my story, and because I'm hoping it'll help others, and not only just my story, but I also have the wisdom from the things that I have experienced of that. People need to be mindful to be whole, holy humans, and you know, wake up to that and try to stay out of the matrix. So thank you for your time and for holding the space.
Yeah.
To hold this space for not only me, but for other guests.
Absolutely.
And for your audience. And thank you to them for listening to me. You know, I know it's a lot. Tell me, I know it's a lot. But thank you to holding space and connecting all of us. That's a very powerful gift. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I do apologize for the tech issues in the beginning. So.
Well, I'm a boomer, but you know, and my phone is just like the worst. Like, you know, I paid 100. Where did it go? I'll find it sooner or later. Oh, here it is. You know, it's just an old piece of plastic, you poor thing. And yeah, it's not an Apple thing or anything. And so, you know, there's a lot on my end, you know. So thank you for your patience in that way.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
And we did it. We got together.
We did it. We did.
Yeah. So there's a start. Yeah. Anyway, thank you again. Thank you to your audience.
Yeah, thank you, Dana. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you want more content like this, check out my YouTube channel, MiriamIRI /mysteries and fun. So thank you to Dana, and have a good night, everybody. Happy Memorial Day. Thank you for your service to anybody who serves. God bless. Thank you.